Want to get New York today by email? Here's the sign up.
It's Tuesday.
Weather, watch out for rain starting at lunchtime. High in the upper 50s.
Alternate side parking, in effect until March 10. Purim.
With its first confirmed case of the coronavirus, New York City has shifted from trepidation to high alert. Governor Cuomo said yesterday that it was inevitable the outbreak would spread.
Both the governor and Mayor de Blasio have urged calm, noting that the virus produces only mild symptoms in many people.
On Tuesday morning, Mr. Cuomo confirmed the second case in New York State.
Still, the arrival of the coronavirus has rapidly raised anxiety levels among New Yorkers, who spent their days in close quarters in office and residential buildings, on crowded sidewalks and in packed subway cars.
The woman, a 39-year-old health care worker, tested positive for the coronavirus after going to Mount Sinai Hospital on Saturday with mild respiratory symptoms, New York officials said.
The woman had recently returned from Iran with her husband, officials said, and it was assumed that her husband was also infected. The couple have been staying in their home.
It is not believed that the woman was contagious on her flight to New York or in the private car she took home from the airport. Still, officials said, they were trying to identify people who may have come into contact with her.
In the previous month, 9 people from New York City were declared free of the virus after they were tested by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Over the weekend, the testing protocol changed. Previously, the state could not test patients locally, it had to send samples to the CDC, in Atlanta. Now health officials in Manhattan and Albany can perform the tests, allowing for quicker results and more control over who is screened.
Mr. Cuomo said yesterday that he hoped that 1,000 samples could soon be tested per day.
He also said New York's public health system was focused on reducing the spread of the outbreak. The state will begin new cleaning protocols in crowded public places, including schools and buses, he said.
Mr. de Blasio said the city had some 1,200 hospital beds that could be made available for coronavirus patients. He said that people who suspected they had the virus should contact 311 or go to a public health facility.
NYC and Company, which monitors tourism in the city, has projected 285,000 fewer visitors this year from China. That would be a decline of more than 25% from the 1.1 million Chinese visitors last year.
China is the second biggest source of international tourists to the city, behind Britain.
Through last weekend, restaurants, museums and Broadway shows were largely unaffected. But many stores became flooded with customers seeking supplies such as hand sanitizer, masks and antibacterial wipes. Several stores had run out of these items.
Learn more about the coronavirus.
The coronavirus, what scientists have learned so far.
How to prepare for the coronavirus.
Surfaces, sneezes, sex, how the coronavirus can and cannot spread.
Why the Weinstein jury decided to convict, inside the deliberations.
He ran for president. Now he's politicking for his wife in Brooklyn.
An NYC carriage horse died. Video of its collapse stirred outrage.
Amtrak, struggling to keep trains running, chooses a new leader.
Want more news? Check out our full coverage.
The mini crossword, here is today's puzzle.
Homeowners in East New York, Brooklyn, are seeking to restrict would-be house flippers. The city.
Pressure is mounting to shake up the leadership of Staten Island's St. Patrick's Day Parade, which bars LGBT groups from marching. Staten Island advance.
Jury conviction rates diverge widely by borough, from 57% in the Bronx to 88% in Staten Island, New York Post.
What if we can't get along? Journalism and America in the Trump Era is a discussion at Columbia University in Manhattan, 6 p.m. free.
A new exhibition, Plant Cure, Brooklyn Botanic Garden, about the healing power of plants, is at the Garden in Brooklyn, 6 p.m. $10.
The Kegelstadt Trio, a Danish chamber music group, performs at Flushing Town Hall in Queens, 7:30 p.m. free.
Jordan Allen.
Events are subject to change, so double-check before heading out. For more events, see the Going Out guides from the Times' culture pages.
The Times' Kasha Pilot writes.
When we asked readers what they most wanted to know about New York City, hundreds of queries came in. As we sifted through the entries, a trend emerged. Several of the common questions had been answered in previous Times articles. So, we dived into the archives to answer some of them.
Laura Oppenheim, a physician who lives in Philadelphia, wanted to know how New York City gets its water. She asked, how does water get to the top of a very tall apartment building when someone turns on the tap or takes a shower on, say, the 70th floor?
It's all about gravity, Rhonda Kaysen wrote in The Times in 2018. First, New York's water travels from an elevation roughly 6 stories high, from sources north of the city.
It's a gravity-fed system, John Setra, a founding principal of the Manhattan architecture firm Setra Ruddy, told Ms. Kaysen. The sheer weight of the water would create enough pressure to take care of any building up to 6 stories.
To climb any higher, the water needs help. That's where a pump comes in, pushing water to the top of the building, where it sits in a reservoir, the familiar wooden water tank. Turn on the faucet and the water travels down to you.
The physics don't change for skyscrapers, Ms. Kaysen wrote. People living in 50-story buildings get their water the exact same way the old buildings do, said David Hockhauser, a co-owner of Essex Brothers, one of the city's oldest water tank manufacturers.
The water sources, according to my colleague Emily Rube, include the Catskill, Delaware watershed, which extends 125 miles northwest of New York City, and the closer by Croton watershed.
It's Tuesday, drink up.
Dear Diary.
In 1975, I was a student at the Katharine Gibbs School at what was known then as the Pan Am Building. One Wednesday we got the afternoon off to see a Broadway show. My friends and I decided to see Pippin at the Imperial Theater.
It was a cold, wet February day, and we lined up at the box office. There were 5 of us, all 18 years old and from either the Bronx or New Jersey. We were wearing what the Gibbs School considered appropriate business attire, dresses, long winter coats, pantyhose and low heels. We were happy to have the afternoon off. We laughed and counted our money as we waited, making sure we had enough for cheap seats at the top and to go to McCann's afterward. We began talking to an older man and woman in front of us. We learned that she had attended Katie Gibbs in the 1950s. We talked about changes at the school, electric typewriters, and about the dress code, no more white gloves. The line continued to move, and we eventually said goodbye to the couple. I was in charge of buying the tickets, so when we got to the box office I did the ordering. We'd like 5 tickets for the rear mezzanine, I said. Here are your tickets, the box office attendant said. I must have looked confused. Take them, she said. I took the tickets. I didn't know a lot about the theater, but I knew that FM meant front mezzanine. We don't have enough money for these, I said. You don't need to, the woman said. Ha, I mumbled. The woman smiled. The guy in front of you paid for your tickets, she said. You're the Gibbs girls, right? Mary Hayes. New York Today is published weekdays around 6 a.m. Sign up here to get it by email. You can also find it at nytoday.com. We're experimenting with the format of New York Today. What would you like to see more or less of? Post a comment or email us, nytoday@nytimes.com.